keep showing up. If no one invests in you, invest in yourself. If no one believes in you, believe in yourself. Even if you don't see the results right away, keep showing up until you do see the results. Even if you don't see the results for a very, very long time, keep showing up.
Jim is a client of Anthony Martinelli's. No cash was provided for this endorsement. All investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Individuals' needs and circumstances will vary. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advice offered through Jacobi Capital Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Registration does not imply a certain level of skill of training. Jacobi Capital Management, LLC, and Jacobi Wealth Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.
All right. Anthony Martinelli, Jacobi Wealth Advisors. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks
You're
for
my
having me.
financial
Appreciate
advisor.
it. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Jim.
I look forward to
Thank you.
doing as much business with you in the future to help me grow and be successful. I know it took us a little while to get you on the podcast here.
That's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right. Better late than never.
Better late
Thanks
than
for
never,
having me.
right?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's jump right in. I mean,
Yeah.
I love interviewing new people that aren't in my line of work. And I love interviewing people that are in business. And, a couple weeks ago, you asked me to go golfing at Applebrook, which I shit the bed on that course.
Yeah,
Big
makes
time.
two of us.
Me and you were out there just swinging for the
Hacking
fences,
it up.
hacking it up. But I appreciate the invite. It was a members guest, right?
Yeah, one-day member guest. Yep.
Loved it. It was such a nice day and a lot of exercise I got in that day. I think I put in over 5 miles, seven miles.
About 7 miles.
I think it's 7 miles.
And as often as we hit the ball, it might have been 8
Might have
or
been
9.
more. We were in the woods staff today, but that's the beauty of golf, right? You got to play to get better, and the longer the more you play, the more you hustle like business, the better you're gonna get.
It's hard to get good at golf when you're running businesses.
Yeah, that's for sure. Unless you've made it so much to where you're just golfing all day long, like some of our buddies, right?
It just requires so much practice,
Yeah,
so much time,
and practice.
But it's great. It's a great sport.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you on coming on the show
Absolutely.
again. Let's kind of jump right in. Like, what made you become a financial advisor? Like, what was that always in the cards for you?
No, you know what? It's funny. Like I grew up, local. I went to Ridley High School, grew up in Delco, went to Westchester University. When I was in college at Westchester, I think it was a combination of a couple things. Like I love sports. So I, played football, I wrestled, baseball, basketball. So like I love sports. So like my vision was to be a coach and like a teacher. Like I wanted to go into high school teaching, coaching. Okay. And it was one of my dad's best friends at the time, going back years ago, owned a large financial planning company in Newtown Square, and said to me, listen, he said, he put the recruiting pitch to me. He said, you can teach and coach, and he goes, you could always do that. You'll have a teaching certificate. He goes, why don't you come try and work for me? And, you build your own business, and it's, it's finance, financial planning. I said, well, I don't know anything about that. It wasn't a finance major. He said, don't worry about it. We have great training programs, we'll train you, it might take a few years, but, see how you acclimate. And the concept of building a business was very appealing to me. Right. So I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I spent 19 years there.
Wow.
And then, we started Jacobi Wealth Advisors. It was, we just had our 12-year anniversary in June.
Awesome.
So it's, almost the culmination of 30 years. And it's kind of ironic because I wanted to be sort of a coach, and now I am a coach, just in a way that I never really imagined.
Did you have to be good at, like, obviously you're a numbers guy, right? Like, are you like borderline accountant kind of numbers guy, or are you just like were you good at numbers in high school?
You know what?
College?
I wasn't great at numbers. I never really liked math. I really liked kind of business and like entrepreneurship and I liked sales. Like I like that aspect of it. I liked being in. He made a great statement to me. He said, he said if I love teaching, he goes, teachers are great. And I love teachers too. I mean, I have 4 kids and so value what teachers do. But the statement he made to me was, if you build your own business, you could get paid potentially the worth of the person. Like if you go into teaching, like there's a number attached to that career, right? To that job. And no matter how great you are, like you're going to hit a ceiling at some point. You're going to
hit that plateau.
And that like really resonated with me because I'm thinking, he's right? So I went that route. I wasn't necessarily great with numbers, but at the end of the day, it like if you understand you're in business, right? Mm-hmm. P&Ls, profit and loss, balance sheets, like so much of life is basically subtraction and addition.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it really is.
I was never good at math as a kid in school, but I liked math. It kind of like challenged me to progress, but I still need a calculator single, all the numbers that I do all day long, right? Because they're big numbers. But I was always like afraid to jump in more in the math. Like I wish I kind of would have paid attention more math than anything. I loved history and I loved science, but math was never my strong point. But I use math more now than ever.
Right.
And I'm like, shit, I probably should have, taken more math classes or paid attention more in math.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, because you're estimating jobs and profit per job.
Loss,
and all. I mean, there's your whole life to some degree revolves around numbers.
Yeah.
But yet you hated math, and you're still successful.
Yeah. It was painful, but I use math every single day. But I'm allowed to cheat because no teacher's hanging over my shoulders. So I have my calculators and, I have my rollers, my calculators and all that stuff. So it's good because I'm using math every single day and I enjoy doing the calculations. And it's like, how many days on site, how much material, and then you add it all up, and figure out based on your numbers what your quote's got to be. So, and then you can play around with those numbers a little bit if you think it may be a little too high, or you might have an extra day here or there on this task that may require only one day. So it's fun. I enjoy it. But, going back to financial advisory, like I was always not against it, but I was a young kid. I didn't know any better. Nobody ever taught me that in school. Like, hey, when you make some decent money, learn where to invest it, or learn how to invest it.
Sure.
So financial advisor kind of scared me when I started like jumping into it. And you've helped me understand what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, but also help me like, hey, it's not so scary. It's like, this is what I'll do. I'll take care of X, Y, and Z for you. And, I only try and recommend you now to everyone I know.
Yeah,
and I can't tell you how many other guys are like trying to beat down my door too. Like
of course.
Once they see that you have a successful business, or they hear of you, or they just see your trucks or whatever, they might reach out and jump out.
Sure.
I forget how we got connected, but it was through a mutual friends of ours.
Through a friend,
through a couple friends.
Yeah,
and
friends.
I'm glad I met you. I need to. Every young businessman or woman needs to plan for the future, and I wish I did it at an earlier stage. I'm almost 20 some years into the business now, and I'm just starting to plan out that financial wealth and my future for that.
Yeah,
so,
and it's the great thing is it's never too late to plan. I mean, you're still very young, right?
Yeah.
And you've built a great business, a great enterprise. You continue to grow. And it's it's never too late to plan. I mean, people sometimes feel defeated, like it's too late, I'm behind. I don't understand even where to start. Like there is a fear factor, right? I mean, there's a basic fear factor.
Well, it's a lot of information.
Want to make mistakes,
too.
And
it's like some random business owner that just started isn't going to have the time to sit there with you and go over all that information. Like I didn't want to make time for you, at first, but now that I realize what you can do and then the routes we're about to go on and the path we're about to take, it's like I should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah. You live and learn.
You do live and learn.
Plenty of pavement in front of you. So
I mean, let's just say there's young kids watching, outside looking in. What what specifically is like the first step to get a hold of you, and then how do you like give us the rundown on how you take a new client, you introduce them to certain things, what information you need to get from them, and then what is the long-term goal?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, whether it's I have clients that come to us in different stages. They may be younger in their career. It could be they just graduated college, they got their first job, they want to start saving a little bit of money, or it could be a very complex situation where a business owner that owns multiple businesses and has a significant ceiling of complexity. Whether it's because you have you have you have tax, you have taxes, you have insurance, you have investments, you have business ownership, you have legal, like you have all these different aspects across the planning spectrum. And so you may be in different stages, right, depending
Yeah.
on where you are. And our whole process really starts with discovery, where we do a very deep dive into, okay, what are your goals and objectives? What's your background? What are you trying to accomplish? We have an exercise, we call it lifestyle envisioning. So we take, a new client through a visioning exercise that even talks about, attitudes towards money. What were some of the money mistakes that you made? What's the biggest money mistake you made? What's the most positive thing you've done with money? Like to kind of go deep into the, sort of the psychology behind money, because we believe that behavior is as important as money. Like
Sure.
behaviors really drive a lot of what happens
Yeah.
with money.
Yeah, I mean, you got a bad spending habit or you got
Yeah.
bad habits, you're
So
never going
so
to be able to
really,
save.
yeah. So really diving in and taking a look at, what are your goals? What's the background? What are your attitude towards money? Like family plays into it, right? In terms of how you were raised and experiences that you had with money, things that you saw in your household growing up, like all that kind of plays into it.
Hmm. Yeah, but they don't teach this stuff in school though. So that's like where like, it's like, hey, they try and push all this stuff on you that you're barely going to use in school. They need to like start pushing like dollars and cents on people in school and like, check balancing, introducing, if you want to be an entrepreneur, like most kids do nowadays, and some kids don't, they just want to sit behind a computer or whatever and work for someone else. But the kids that do want to move forward in life and start their own business or go work for themselves, they don't have like I never had like a sense of direction. It's like, okay, I knew I needed to start a business, but for the first 2 years of my business, I didn't even have an LLC. Like
Right,
I didn't even
right.
have the proper insurance. I was 16 years old, running blind, right? So like, but nobody taught me that. My mom kept saying, "You need insurance. Like, what happens if somebody gets hurt on
Yeah,
a job?" And
yeah,
she just she's a worry ward. But and I worried too, right? What if somebody did get
of
hurt on a
course.
job? I mean, I was on the job with a couple laborers, so I made sure that we were all safe and practicing and doing what we do every single day in a safely manner. But there was times where couple kids got a finger nipped from a
Yeah,
hedge trimmer, or like I nipped my shin once on a hedge trimmer. But it's like nobody ever taught me those proper steps. It's not like there was a lot of books back then, or I didn't like to read either, but it's not like there was a lot of people telling me, hey, this is what you need to do and here's a game plan, let's set it up for you, and
mhm.
I feel like that's what you kind of did when you came in and sat down with me for the first time. You're like, hey, here's the steps and here's where we can kind of take your growth plan. And it was very knowledgeable, and I gained a lot of knowledge from our first meeting. um what would you if a school had a curriculum that was able, like, what would you call that? Like, is it business 101? Is it like
It's funny.
financial planning?
It's funny. We just rolled out a course, Jacobi Wealth 101, because you've hit 100% correct. Like they don't teach it in schools,
Hmm.
right? They don't teach financial literacy in schools to the degree that it needs to be taught. And I had, a lot of clients coming to us saying, I'm worried about my kids, like, not being good stewards of money, not having good money habits because they don't learn it in school. Can you help them? Can you help our teenagers? Can you help our 20 somethings? And so we build a course, we build a curriculum
That's awesome.
that has, multiple pillars in the curriculum, investing, savings, compound interest, good debt versus bad debt, right? Because there's good debt and there's bad
Yeah.
debt. We cover all the basics, taxes, and we cover all the basics, and we'll run them through a course and teach them, basic financial literacy. It's really designed for, I would say, teens and the children in their 20s, but we could adapt it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just basic building blocks of how to treat money properly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's smart. I feel like I still spend money like it's going out of style sometimes. But I've learned to not live above my means too. You only make so much, you can only spend so much, right? And I want to do better with saving and providing for my family in the future. And I'm trying to teach my kids now. A couple of the kids are a little too young to learn. Actually, Jackson, my 9-year-old, was like, "Dad, I want a skimboard." And I'm like, "Well, there's 2 in the garage at the shore house." "Well, they're not mine." I'm like, "Well, nobody else is using them. I want one. It's $100." I'm like, "No, I just bought him a new fishing rod, this weekend because he broke his other one, but he loves fishing. But he's out of the house, which is great. He's not sitting there on his iPad all day. Same with like the dirt bikes and stuff like that. And I teach them like, hey, when you're done riding the dirt bike, you need to wash it. When you're done using the skimboard, clean it off, put it back where you got it.
Yeah.
It's not just like money just flies out the window here because things break and things don't last. But the only why they don't last is because nobody takes care of them.
Agreed. I mean, and it's like one of the topics in the course is wants versus needs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how to teach, and this carries through to adulthood, right? I mean, you teach a 13-year-old a want versus a need. Do they want it or they need it? It's the same if you're 40 years old and you have a 25-foot boat and you want a 40-foot boat. Like, do you want it or do you need
really
it? Right?
Need it? Yeah.
So what's the difference between a need and the want? And then we also try to teach them the difference between ownership versus consumption, meaning, you're buying a consumer product. Like, everybody's got an iPhone, right? You're using an Apple phone. And if an Apple phone's $1,000, even though they build it into your bill the way they do it now, right?
Now for the 14,
they just raised the price
with the 1.5 gigabyte or whatever.
But we could go back in time in 2 seconds, show them, plug in, into a Google search or into a, AI search and say, if you bought Apple stock, $1,000 worth of Apple stock in 1990, like, what would that be worth today? And like, it's like a mind-blowing number.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like mind-blowing.
Was it like millions?
I mean, it's hundreds of thousands,
wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if you ever heard the trick where you take a penny every day and double it, right?
Yeah.
Would you rather have $1 million today, or someone give you a penny and then double that penny every day, and you end up with several $1 million if you're doubling the penny because of compound interest, right? So, just like little concepts that resonate with them, but they also they carry through.
Yeah.
I mean, these wants versus needs, and to your point, you made a great point. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we see is lifestyle inflation, right? So you make a little bit more money, you increase your lifestyle. You make a little bit more money, you increase your lifestyle. You have a huge year in business, you have some extra discretionary money sitting around, like you go out and maybe buy something you don't need. Like, so
yeah.
I think lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation is like one of the biggest mistakes that we see of why it holds down your savings rate.
Yeah.
And being able to develop like a healthy savings rate becomes challenging when you're kind of like spending,
it's tough too if you have that crowd of friends, especially at my age, where like, everyone I know is wealthy.
Yeah.
Very wealthy.
Yeah.
And like, you're trying to keep up with them.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses. So like, it's like, there's sometimes where like one of my buddies, I'm not going to mention his name, but he's like a part of our group, but he doesn't make that much money. And he's like, I wish I was like you guys. I'm like, no, you'll get there. Like, you'll get there. And like, whenever he comes out, he's like, I don't have any money. I'm like, well, we got you. It's fine. We got you. Like, don't even worry about it. We'll cover you, And it's like just, it's funny because looking back, I was that guy. But then again, I wasn't the idiot to go out on a weekend and blow $1,000. I was always trying to be like, conservative with my money. And now that I have it, it's not like life-changing money, but I can still go out if I want and spend $1,000 on a weekend. I don't, because I don't want to be that guy, right? I'm not just going to buy everyone dinner here, that's with us. But that's the type of people sometimes we hang out with, and it's nice,
Yeah.
and they're very generous, which is great, and I love them for that. But sometimes you got to be like, oh, I had a bad week this week, or maybe a lot of jobs didn't sell this week. We can't go out and have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like along the same lines of like where my kids are. They're like, and I said this before on the podcast, they're like, Dad, we're rich. I said, no, I'm rich.
Yeah.
You're not rich. You still need to go get a job.
I saw Shaq say that one time.
Yeah. I took that from Shaq. But yeah, it's it comes down to like, okay, the kids see that we live in a good life, but
Sure.
but it's not like dad. Like, I'm not just gonna keep handing out money like that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been grinding for years.
Been
and
grinding
years
for years,
and
and my
years.
dad never did that. So like it's like, hey, if you want this, you need to do X, Y, and Z for me. So like sometimes, my son, he's a wrestler, but he's good at wrestling. But if he needs a new pair of shoes, I'm like, all right, you need to grind harder in the gym, and I'll get you this pair of shoes. Well, these shoes don't fit. Well, we're gonna make them fit for this next couple practices, because obviously I can't just go out and buy a pair of shoes right now. I want to order them offline. I want to make sure they're the right size. Or, Dad, we need this. Like this weekend where he was like, Dad, I need a skimboard. I'm like, you don't need a skimboard. You want a skimboard. Like you were just saying, like you want it. You don't need it. There's 2 in the garage. And we don't have to pay for them. They're just like the community skimboards. It's like, I'm not going out and spending $100 on something you're going to use, once every weekend, because we go to the beach only once every weekend.
And they keep creating, right? I mean, companies are in business for creating new models, new technologies,
yeah.
right? So you always want the latest and greatest, technologies. And some of this stuff is like, keeping up with your neighbors or your friend group or whatever. And then social media hasn't helped, right? You see the whole Instagram and the whole social media phenomenon where how much of it's real, how much of it's fake.
Yeah.
You see somebody, standing in front of a Ferrari because they're on vacation in Miami. Like, is it real?
Yeah.
Like, is it their friends? Like, most of the time it's not.
Yeah, probably not. And that's like part of keeping up with the Joneses. And it's even worse now because there is Facebook and Instagram where there's these influencers, and all these kids just, when they're bored and they have nothing to do, they're on their phones.
Yeah.
All day long. So they see that, and, I inspired to be wealthier from the people that I hang out with, right? So like when I was younger, I used to hang out with all these older kids, and they all had businesses or money, or older guys, where I was just like working with them, and I'm like, damn, look what they got. This guy's pulling up to the job site in a brand new Ford Lightning that's worth $200,000. Like, I want that one day, right? So it's just like, well, you got to grind to get there.
Yeah.
And that's why I love interviewing and having people on the podcast that have wealth but also have knowledge, because I don't know everything, and neither do these kids. So having you on and explaining the fact that you're now kind of setting up younger kids. Like, if I was a younger kid on the show, like or listening to the show, like how would I get in front of you? Is there a website? Is there when is there certain times of the year that you're doing this class? Is it in person?
Yeah, no, I would say if you go to our website, which is Jacobi Wealth, Jacobi with an I, JACOBI wealth.com. You have an email, you could submit an email, info at Jacobi, and it'll get to us, and we'll see it, and we could schedule a discovery call.
Yeah.
Okay. We're pretty easy to reach.
And there's like age limit on it. I guess your parents would, if most people watching the show are probably of age. So,
yeah, not necessarily. I mean, there's age limits to opening accounts and things
Stuff like that.
Yeah. But and usually their parents would be involved to some level.
Yep. I mean, shit, I'm 38 years old. My mom's still involved. I just pass it all. I need her, right? I just pass it on to her. Listen, I was talking to my buddy Jeremy from Executive. I think somebody else introduced you to him.
We just had a conversation.
And I went with him to Philly Mastermind down in Wildwood this weekend. I wasn't planning on going. I didn't even want to ask the wife. It was Friday night. She's like, I don't mind if you go. So I asked her, and he was cruising over from AC. It was in Wildwood, and he's like, would you go with me? And I'm like, sure. But I learned a lot at this Philly Mastermind. There's a lot of wealthy young entrepreneurs there that are just like really hitting it hard and grinding. A couple roof companies, guys that have investment properties. I mean, Sam DeMeo was there, who's big on Instagram.
Yeah, I see him on
he's
social.
He's doing well for himself. And, it's just being in the room with these guys and listening to what they have to say is very, very, is very on point. But I forget where I was going at with the story. But when I was down, when we were on our way to Wildwood, I was talking to Jeremy about just like the little things that I've learned over the years, and he was, he's giving me input, I'm giving him some input, and it was great,
Yeah.
and we're like technically a competition, but you know what? We get along well because we're both kind of the same dude. We wake up every day, go to the gym, we crush it. We try and be honest with all of our customers, and we show up, and it's just like you got to grind to get where you're going, and I think we have a lot to relate, and that's why we kind of clicked a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's when you're running businesses, like, it consumes you, right? So most of my clients are business owners, and like the business is like one of their children, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's a full-time baby.
It's full-time baby, and so I think getting in the right rooms, like whether it's mastermind groups or coaching groups, or when you get in the room with people that are killing it, and you're increasing your knowledge. Right. One of the biggest, the advice I like to give, especially young people or anybody for that matter, like, how do I grow wealth? Well, I think one of the keys to growing wealth is increasing your skills and your knowledge, right? If you're investing back into increasing your skills and knowledge, like, you have to grow your income, like, because if your income is fixed and you're maybe not making a lot of money, but you have debts, like you hit like a ceiling, like it's hard to hit a savings rate. When, especially in today's world, like, I mean, think about what things cost, right? Everything's a fortune.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to overcome that is make yourself more valuable.
Yeah.
Right. Like, take a course, get some extra training, get some designations, increase your knowledge and your skill level.
Yeah.
If you grow your income, you have a much better chance of growing your wealth.
Yeah.
If you can control your spending.
If you can control the spending, correct. I like to say, and my videographer here, like, he's hustler, right? He works for me full-time, part-time, and he's got other things on the side going on. And I like that's how you grow your wealth, right? So, like, let's just say you're a landscaper, you're starting out. Well, don't go home at 3:00 if you have no kids and nothing to do, and go hang out with your buddies. Go home and get a side job. Go deliver pizza, right? Because you can make $300-400 extra a week delivering pizza, and you take your full-time job if you're a landscaper and you're starting out, like, that's paying all your bills. Don't rob that company either. Like, don't pay yourself at all for the first 3 years. Live off of selling pizza or live off of delivering pizza. And that's kind of how we were able to grow Pro Tree so quick, was the fact that me and my partner had other jobs. We didn't take any money from that company for the first 5 years. We just let that company grow and grow and grow and grow. And once we were able to sustain a decent amount of capital in the business account, now we're, all right, draw here, draw there, draw here. Then when we started making real money, now we got a healthy paycheck each. Where it was like, for me, for the hardscape side of things, is like, I still worked 100 hours a week and I made really good money, but I did kind of spend it like an idiot on stupid things, cars. Well, I had 3 kids at the time too, pushing 4, and I had mouths to feed. But, if I could say one thing to people out there, is like, try not to have that many kids at such a young age. Save your money and work 2 jobs. Don't go hang out with your friends, work as much as you can, right? Because you get old quick. I mean, 20 years went like this for me, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm feeling it at the gym.
I see it.
I know, but like, some days I'm feeling it at the gym. I think I hurt, my like a hernia or something, but I haven't been at the gym for about a week or so now. It's because I'm not feeling good, in my stomach area, and it's just from working out. But it's not from like in the field. When I hurt my hernia before, it was from in the field, but now I'm like slacking at the gym, and I like feel like crap every day. I want to like get back in there so bad, but that was my biggest motivation. It's like, go to the gym, do your thing in the morning, get your guys out the door, and crush it till 5-6 o'clock at night. Try and be home at like 5 every night, because I work like a dog for 20 years, and I wouldn't get home till like 8:30, 9 o'clock every single day. So now I try and be home for my kids at a reasonable time, so I can watch them grow up, because I don't want to miss, a lot with their life. Nothing's more important.
It's so important.
Family's most important. Yeah, most important.
But to your point, I mean, it's if you're in your 20s or you're even a teenager, like, when you talk about math, it's easy to apply math and say, hey, if you took a 20-year-old and he saved $100 a month, and you took a 30-year-old and started saving $100 a month, right? In 20 years, like the 20-year-old's eventually going to have way more money because he's got his time on his side, right? So the more time you have on your side, time and compound interest are, tremendous multipliers of wealth.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
So the earlier you can start saving, the better, and then just try to continue to increase your your savings rate.
I mean, my aunt helped run the office for a little while. I would say probably about 12 years ago, maybe even longer. And she was like, Jim, you need a Roth IRA. You need a Roth IRA. I'm like, what the hell do I need a Roth IRA for? And I did it. And you can only put in up to $5,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah, seven.
It's
$7,000
a year. So it's very minimal.
They ratchet it up a little bit each year.
Yeah, I think it was at $5,000 at one point, but it's very minimal.
It used to be a 5, yeah.
Probably. But how many years I've had that, and what do I got? I don't know, 30, 40 grand in the account now or whatever, which I wouldn't have had that if she never told me. And it's not like I was missing that money. It was just the little bit of money that goes in each month, but gains interest. And, it's nice that I have that now, and then, with the crane company that we had the 401k, we're about to transfer that over hopefully soon, over into some more accounts, and you just kind of keep stacking those accounts and let that money kind of work for you, so they're the things nobody taught me as a young kid. And I kind of wish I was a younger me sitting here talking to you 20 years ago, because who knows where I would be at this point, maybe fishing on a boat.
Can't look in the rear view.
Can't. You gotta move forward.
Gotta look forward. I mean, you look at all the knowledge you've accumulated at this point, and as long as you've been in business.
Took some steps back. I took some steps back.
But you can kind of compress, like you can really accelerate your growth when you have experience. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no substitute for experience.
Yeah. I would say that I could start a business now and grow it very fast. Within 3 to 5 years, I could maybe have the size business I have now, knowing what I know now, if it was 20 years ago. Right. However, it'd be tough to find the labor force for what I got now. It's just tough.
Yeah.
It's just very tough. And I pay people pretty damn well. It's just tough to find those key kind of employees that want to do this line of business now. It's not the easiest line of business. And I have friends in the business like, no, I have no problem, not in this line of business, but I have friends in business. They're like, I have no problem getting people to work for me. But it's like, that might be like an HVAC or a plumbing company where people are coming out of Votech and kind of already made up their mind, electricians and stuff like that. Like, those kids kind of have an idea what they want to do. And if you snag them or take them from somebody, they'll be with you, hopefully forever if you treat them right. My line of work, it's a little bit different because it's just hard laboring work.
Right, yeah.
No matter if you're a foreman or not, you're still out there humping concrete and stone, and block and pavers.
Brutal.
It's brutal work. I beat myself up doing it, and I love it. I love what we do because I'm passionate about it. Like, I feel like we're one of the best in the area for doing what we do. But that's because I'm very passionate about it, and I'm on top of all my guys, But it took forever for me to get here.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as the tree company, I'll tell you that.
But I mean, I was, before I walked in, you were a half an hour, like, I don't know how many phone calls I saw you take, and,
4.
Some very sternly, phone calls. And
yeah. I feel like it's all day long now. I don't know how I ran a business with, the phones when we first started the company were like Nokia brick phones. Like,
the old,
that wasn't that long ago.
Was it the Nextels? Did you have the two?
Well, we had Nextels at one point, and I loved the Nextels. They were awesome because I was able to just give some of the foremans the Nextels, and I would just chirp them. Or everybody had the Nextels where you just chirp.
Every construction owner that I talk to would love to have the Nextels back.
They're gone.
Everybody misses the
Nextels.
But
they're gone. I don't know if they still have a line of Nextel. I know they have like an app where you can chirp people, but it's not like it used to be.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Because those Nextels were great. You could text on them, or you could just chirp somebody and be like, "Yo, do you have those pavers on site?" And it's not like, "Oh, I got to pick up a phone call." Like, they heard it. It was real nice, loud, and they heard it. So that was one of the best things about business. But yeah, the communication was decent, but it's kind of not like it is now where it's text. I'm always on the phone. It's like, I feel like I can't ever put the phone down. The kids hate driving down the shore with me. I love it because that's my time to be on the phone.
You're
Like that's 2 hours of me just on the phone
yeah,
nonstop. And
there's
they're
nothing
like,
else to
can
do.
we listen to the radio? I'm like, yeah. I put on the radio for 1 second, then I get a phone call. And it's like half hour to phone. They're like, this sucks. I'm going with mom next time. I'm like, all right, well, go with mom. What do you want me to do? I got to run the business. Like, do you want the damn skimboard? You want the damn skimboard or what? So
that's great.
Was there a moment that completely changed how you think about money? Growing up?
Yeah. That's a great question. I always think of 9/11, 2001, right? Because I was 5 years into my career. My background, like growing up, like, when I say like early teenage years, like money was fairly scarce in our house. Like I grew up in a very close-knit Italian family.
Mm-hmm.
My father owned a business that didn't make it, right? So
What kind of business was it?
It was a restaurant business.
Okay.
There was like some financial challenges in my family, which I didn't, you don't fully understand at the time. We ended up, we lived, it was myself, my brother, my parents, my grandmother, because my grandfather had passed away suddenly. And I remember my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
She went into the workforce. I remember my father working 2 jobs. My grandmother was working 2 jobs. As much sports as I was playing, I worked. Like I always had a job. Yeah. Like I was 8 years old. My grandfather immigrated from Italy. He was a shoemaker. So he owned a shoemaker shop in Ridley Park. He used to take me there, and I started out sweeping the floors, but then he taught me how to put like soles and heels on shoes and stuff that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, not really.
And so what I started to witness was, I noticed like everybody having to work so hard in the family. I think a lot of stuff in life is like more like caught rather than taught. It's not what you say, it's like what you see, and I just saw everybody working so hard, I knew there was financial stress. And it was part of the reason I think I went into finance. I decided to go into finance because I did want to learn how to manage money, and I loved business, the concept of business and kind of being your own boss, so to speak. And so it was kind of weird for me, like, because I started to make good money like early in my career, but I had, I had a child in college, like my oldest, my daughter. And so I was still at Westchester then. So I had to support a family, like at that point, like I had to really hump it and go to work. Right. And so it was kind of a little bit of a weird thing where I started to make very good money. And even though money was scarce in my family, you'd think I would kind of have had that mentality, well, I'm going to hoard money because things were
much
tough for a little while. And I think I went the opposite and I started to spend, right? Because it was like, I'm going to spend, I'm going to make money, spend, make money, spend, make money, spend. And I point to like 9/11. I point to that time because I was sitting in a client's office when the planes hit the World Trade Center. And I was supposed to leave that meeting and go to a prospective client that was going to invest, a good amount of money with us. And at the time back then it was a lot of commission, right? No commit, like it was mostly commission driven.
All commission for sales. Yeah.
Back then in my industry I was in a fairly heavy, commission driven environment. And I was going to make a significant commission, right? And I needed that money, right? I don't remember at the time. I think it was in the neighborhood of like 50 grand. It was like a lot of money, right? Yeah. And, I clearly, planes hit the World Trade Center, everything's going crazy at that point. I called the new client I was going to see him. I said, I'm coming to pick the check up. He said, don't even bother. He's like, there's no way I'm investing.
Oh my God.
I don't know what's going to happen with all this.
Yeah.
Right. So I hung the phone and went home. My wife picked the kids up from school. They were little. And I remember saying, I had no savings. Right. So I was like, I had no savings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the financial industry was getting crushed at that point. Right. Because the markets were getting crushed because of uncertainty. Right.
Yeah.
And so I remember saying to myself, you know what, I have young children and I'm never going to put myself in this position again. That really fundamentally changed the way that I thought about money at the time and savings. and being able to build a balance sheet to weather storms, because these things always happen, right? I've been doing this 30 years, like, so I've seen not only 9/11, but the tech crash
08.
in '08 and late '90s, and COVID, and like I've seen all these
Yeah.
things happen, and like, and when you're in business, like, if you don't have a healthy balance sheet, like you could be a quarter away or losing one big customer or litigation, or there's so many different things that like could rock your world, that like if you don't have the balance sheet built up, like you could put yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah, for sure.
So I remember, from that point forward, I said, you know what, I'm never going to put like my family in this position
Yeah.
again. That kind of changed the way I was thinking. It changed my
good.
habits.
That's how everybody should. There should be like a standard for like emergency fund, or like just everybody should put some little bit of money or capital away for those rainy days. You don't just spend everything you got.
Yeah.
I love my wife, but she spends every single time she has. I just keep giving her more, like I love her to death, but she needs to spend it. She doesn't have a job, but like everything that I give her or she makes here, she just spends. It's like, you know what I mean? And I love her to death. She's awesome, but just some people just don't have that the means of saving, because everything's so expensive nowadays.
True.
She's also raising all the kids at home, and they want McDonald's,
supermarket bills,
supermarket. She just told me she
$1,000s
spent
a month.
$240 on today on the supermarket, or on groceries, which is just going to get us to the weekend, basically, if that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crazy.
The kids eat us out of house and home.
I know.
Especially when my nephews come over. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
But not to make you feel old, but during that 9/11 incident, I was in middle school at that time, and I remember it like to the T. In Mr. Dixon's class, John Dixon, he's an author now. He was I think he was in the Marines or Army. He got out of the Marines and Army, did like a tour or so, and then started teaching language arts. And he was my language arts teacher at Springton Lake Middle School. The planes hit the World Trade Center, and he must have got a phone call or like heard it on the radio, because we were in class, and we were at the end of each class. He used to make us play chess for 10 minutes, which was phenomenal. It's how I learned how to play chess. I still know how to play chess to this day. It was a strategic, chess game, right, for everybody. And he had something that he was like, everyone, no matter what, you're done at X time, you're playing chess. Even though if you didn't know how to play, you were going to learn, which was phenomenal, because I learned how to play chess. But he's like, everyone shut that, right? And he's like, everyone quiet.
Yeah.
Turns on the TV. We see the second plane hit, and then the look on his face, I'll never forget. And I think within a week or so, he re-enlisted, went back, did some
he
more
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
He left school, went back, did some more tours, and he's an author of many books now. I mean, he's
What high school?
Well, it was middle school.
Oh, that was
Springton Lake Middle School.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I forget the actual books that he wrote. One of them was something Island, Treasure Island, or something like that. Or I hope he's not watching. But awesome. Great dude. He was like a Golden Glove boxer, and back in the day, like just a genuinely good guy, and could tell that like the kids kind of grounded him after he did those first couple tours, because he was just real humble, soft-spoken, but an animal. Like, you don't want to mess with this guy.
I'm sure.
You don't want to mess with
But
that
it's
guy.
funny, like, it's like you tell a vivid story, like, and I told like a vivid story. It's like, there's very few times in your life where you remember an event and you remember exactly when it happened,
I'll never forget that.
exactly where you were.
Yep.
Like, you remember, like, there's hardly any events you remember. Your kids being born, you remember those things, but like, you usually count on one hand. Like, this is where I was when this happened, and this was my reaction.
Yeah, I mean, we got out of school. I think everyone's parents were like, pick your kids out from school.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy, and I'll never forget that. But what a crazy day. How do you think COVID affected your industry? Like, was that good for your industry? Was it bad for the industry that you're in? Give us a little rundown on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I think it was a horrible experience overall, obviously. But I mean, as far as our industry, I think it's if you look at our industry post COVID, like it's grown at a very healthy clip. And I think, depending on the business you're in, like some businesses were, fundamentally changed through COVID, right? Some industries went out of business, like because of COVID. They just couldn't withstand it. But for us, I think, the personal relationship aspect of it, like, I'm in a trust-based business, right? I mean, for someone I take it so serious for someone to turn around and say, hey, I'm going to give you our life savings here, right? So it's a trust-based business. So I think those relationship type of business where I could still, I build a trust-based relationship with clients, and it could go down several generations. It could go for years and years and years, right? And so I think that aspect of it, we continue to thrive, right? Because of the high touch service, similar to your business, right? You provide a great product, and you have high touch service built around that. If you just look at purely like from a math perspective, we talked about math earlier. If you made a decision where you were invested in the stock market during COVID, and as soon as COVID onset came, like the market went down 25, 30, 35% in a really short period of time, you panicked, froze and like sold all your stuff and just put it in cash.
That would hurt you, right?
I mean, the people that kind of stayed in and were
played
patient, played the long game. Generally speaking, they came out and way better than they were.
I think Amazon stock went up during COVID, right? Everyone's home, everyone's taking deliveries.
Yeah, I mean, like Amazon stock is
just going crazy
just because of the business
yeah.
model. But I mean, there's certain things. It's funny to me if you didn't panic, right? If you didn't make decisions out of fear and follow the crowd, like so to speak, generally speaking, like you did okay.
Yeah.
Like so. Our industry is healthy. It's getting a little bit older, like it's getting a little aged. I feel like there's not as much youth going into it as there should be, But I think it runs in cycles.
Is that something where you're allowed to, as a financial advisor, pick up the phone and be like, hey, there's we've heard there's COVID coming or something like that. Like, be patient, ride it out. Is that like something that you want to do to your clients, like, or is that? Or they call you and be like, hey, Ant, what do I do?
It's a combination of both. I mean, we can't, there's certain, I call them black swan events, like a COVID, right? Where kind of nobody saw it coming. So that creates a little bit of a general sense of panic and anxiety to some degree. And so we're proactive with clients. And then if clients call us, I feel like there's so much behavioral coaching like that we do, because again, we talked a little bit earlier about how behaviors can determine outcomes.
Yeah, sure.
Right. You could take one situation, and if you were patient and played the long game versus the same exact situation, and you panicked or made a decision out of fear, it's an extremely different outcome. Mm-hmm. Right. So those are, I say, look, I mean, there's you're paying for financial advice. To me, it's not all created like equal, like knowledge, experience, kind of being through a bunch of different things, I think helps us, give more grounded advice, right? To stay patient.
Why do you think some people, I mean, this is maybe touching on some of the things that we talked about before, but why do you think some people earn a lot but stay broke? I mean, I think we touched on that a little bit, but could you elaborate, in that sense, if you can?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the number one thing is lifestyle, right? Spending too much. So typically spending is one. Savings, which directly applies to your savings rate. Like, to me, if you can achieve like a 20 to 25, 20 to 30% like savings rate, like you'll grow a healthy balance sheet, right? So your savings rate is really important. The debt side of things is really important. So, if you're ringing up a bunch of revolving debt, like, and you're carrying credit card balances and a bunch of high interest revolving debt, obviously you have a bunch of money that's kind of going out the window just to service interest, right? That's gonna eat at wealth. It's going to erode wealth. And the other thing is like taxes, like having a plan for taxes too, like because
Taxes stink.
taxes suck. Like everybody hates taxes.
Taxes suck.
You know,
I mean, you make a lot of money, and it's at the end of the year. Uncle Sam's like, like, hey, by the way,
yeah, you owe.
you owe a lot of money.
Exactly.
And it's like, are you kidding me?
And you
So,
haven't
like,
planned for it.
you haven't. I mean, now I try and plan for it, knowing what I know for the last 5 years. That once you make good money, they're gonna come knocking on your door again. But it really does suck because it's like, where does this money go? If they said, hey, you owe $150,000, but this $50,000 is going here, this $50,000 is going here, and this $50,000 is going there, I'd be like, you know what? Okay, now I know where my money's going. But
Yeah,
like,
if you could automate it, automating savings is like, every dollar has a purpose or should have a purpose.
Yeah.
If you could automate the purpose of your dollars, like you'd be amazed at what happens in like a year. But the other thing, Jim, that I always tell people, I'm like, making money and keeping money are not the same. Like they are not. It's not. It's
No.
totally different skill set. Like I meet people that make a lot of money, and sometimes I look at it and I'm like, where's all your money? Like they
where's
make
it all going?
in some cases millions, and
Yeah.
like there may not be nowhere near where there should be there.
Yeah.
Like so. Making it and what's required to make it and what's required to keep it are completely different.
Yeah, but I just wish there was like going back on the tax thing. Like I just wish I don't know. I'm just maybe going down a pipe dream here, but okay. Like for instance, like if people come into the country illegally, they don't want to pay tax. They want to work for cash, right? There's no way of like stopping that cash kind of payments like stuff, right? Like forms of cash is always going to be around, but it's not king anymore. Like I don't accept cash from any of my clients because there's nothing I can do with it. I don't pay my guys cash. I don't do there's nothing that I can do with that cash. So why take it? But then yet, like I have guys that want to come interview with me and they're like, oh, by the way, I need to be paid cash. I'm like, well, go to the next guy because I'm not going to pay you cash. But it's like, how do we stop that behavior? How do we stop that happening? Like, do we just say, okay, if you're in this country and you're doing well, now you get taxed more? Like they should be getting taxed more. I think about it. I think to some extent. It's tough because we're going down a rabbit hole.
Well,
here,
yeah. I mean, we go down the political rabbit hole. We'll be here for a
We'll
long
be,
time.
we'll be here for a week. I need dinner.
Noah has to get home at some point.
Yeah. But it really does suck for business owners like us or like kids that are starting out that again don't know where to put their money and they don't prepare for the taxes at the end of the year. It's like, but then again, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because most of those kids that are starting out are paying their employees cash. But yet if their employees get hurt and that's hurting our workflow because the guys that want to come to work for us, they want cash, but it's like, I can't pay cash. So they go to the next guy that will pay him cash. And it's either, you hear a story that they've gotten hurt and they're not covered or like I want to do everything by the book.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Then again, it's tough to do things by the book because it costs us a lot more money, but it also, everybody has to pay taxes, but like, not saying there's ways around it, but there's got to be a happy medium here.
Well, sure. And I'm not a CPA.
Yeah.
We don't provide accounting advice, but obviously taxes are a big part of financial planning and finance, but there's plenty of things you could legally do to reduce your tax obligations, right? And it's not just, hey, I'm waiting for my tax return. Because accounting, I have a ton of accountant friends, right? CPA friends. And I always say, like, they're reporting and compliance, right? They do reporting and compliance, right? You might not be looking at a year-round proactive tax strategies to reduce that bill rather than kind of wait for the return to be dropped on your lap. And the other thing too is like you made a statement like, yeah, there was always the famous statement, cash is king, right? And to me, like cash flow is king, right? Because if you have cash flow, it enables you as a business owner, right? This, like, let's see a property you want to be able to jump on or, another business opportunity that comes up and you may not want to use all your cash, especially when we went through an era where we had really cheap money.
Yeah.
We had 2% interest rates, 3% interest rates. Does it make sense to take your cash and use it?
No.
Like where, if you're going to use some leverage with banks, traditional financing, it's all about
You need
cash
the cash
flow.
flow
It's all
in
about
order-
cash
yeah,
flow.
yeah.
So if you have healthy cash flow, and I always say, do everything you possibly can to increase your knowledge and skills to increase your cash
Yeah.
flow. You know, you can look at cutting expenses and behavioral changes and those sorts of things. You know?
Yeah. I mean, even like I think you at one point, my CFO who I have kind of hired and my accountant, like I kind of meet with all of you guys like multiple times a year, and it's great. But like they're like, you're doing great because you have great cash flow, but like you need to put some of that money in an interest earnings account. And I'm like, I don't want to see it go below a certain amount because then I get like anxiety, and I want to
Sure.
make sure that I have that cash flow. But like, thankfully, I did that, and I have that account where it should be because, like you said, I just found a property that I'm like, I need to hop on right away, and it's like, all right, well, I need to put down, you know, for the due diligence days, I got to put down 75 grand. It's like, if I didn't have that cash flow, you know, maybe I wouldn't be able to put that down. But then the bank looks at it like, hey, you're good on a $2.4 million mortgage because you have that cash flow in the account.
Exactly.
You know, and I talked to her the other day. She's like, hey, you're fine. Because I was nervous too. Like, you know, $2.4 million property, that's a big investment for me. But, you know, if I didn't have that cash flow in the account, she might have been like, hey, you're denied on this loan.
Yeah,
You're not going to be able to get this loan.
If you're over levered, right, with a weak balance sheet, you're going to miss opportunities potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, more and more I start digging into working with guys like you, the CFO, the accountants. I never knew that 5 years ago. I should have been doing that 10 years ago, right? Or 20 years ago when I started my business. I should have met with those guys and made sure, because, you know, you're an advisor, right? So you're going to advise me on how, same with the CFO, they're going to advise you on how to properly structure your company in order to grow cash flow, in order to grow your company and stuff like that. So I'm 38 years old, but I feel like when I'm 45, we'll be set.
I mean,
you
the window in you know, what you learned from you started working when you're 50.
I mean, my
you're
dad,
a teenager.
yeah, I had my first son at 16, 17, but I was working with my dad when I was 14 and even younger than that. I mean, on the weekends we'd pick us up. On Saturdays, we'd be out cutting grass all day long.
Yeah.
You know, 10, 11 years old. If not, I'm weed whacking the backyard. He owned an acre and a half, and he's like, go weed whack the whole backyard. I come back with poison ivy all over my face. My brother got a lot worse because he's more allergic than me. But I don't get it now because I feel like I'm immune from getting it so much.
So many times.
So many times, you know. It's like it's in my DNA now. But they were the days, and my dad and my mom taught me how to, you know, don't listen to anybody. Don't pay attention to anybody other than, you know, great advice from people like you, and save your money and just go to work and crush it and kill it. Cause like you only get what you put in. You really do.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's gonna open a checkbook for you and be like, here, Jim, I feel bad for you. You don't have a lot of money. You know, here's a check for X amount. Nobody's gonna do that for you.
Input equals
You got to
output.
go out there. No matter what millionaire, billionaire you meet, they're still like, it's great to meet them and pick their brain for advice, but they're not going to open their checkbook for you. And if they do, you're lucky SOB, you know, you're lucky. So,
but you know, I mean, from, you know, if you think of everything you've learned and then you project forward and like from 38 to 48 or say 38 to 50, like it's not linear growth, like, because now you figure out, okay, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And what I'm not good at, I could put the best people around me, right, to help educate me, make sure we're set up properly, right? So when you kind of put it all together, that's where the growth isn't always linear. Like you could have explosive growth. Like you could grow more in 5 years than you grew in the previous 15 because of what you know.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, that I wish I would have hired some guys like you, but I also wish I would have hired like more sales guys 10 years ago, right? Because sales cures everything, man. You have sales, you could put the pieces together, right?
Yep.
So I wish I would have done that years ago. And there's a bunch of different things I wish I would have done years prior. But now, you know, I pay attention to more stuff like that nowadays because I am hanging out or I am around very wealthy people, you know? So, I mean, it's kind of not what you know, it's who you know and how you can navigate on what they're doing and pay attention. It's
how to
like,
take knowledge and apply it, right?
like everyone was like, how do you know how to do like carpentry, hardscape, this, that, and like I stole knowledge. I worked with a hardscaper when I was younger. I worked with a general contractor with my dad. I washed dishes when I was younger. I can do a little bit of everything. It's because I was there working, stealing knowledge. I wasn't on my phone playing on TikTok all day.
Yeah.
They didn't have
And
TikTok.
then you'd have TikTok.
So I was just
Thank God.
stealing knowledge from every single buddy that I worked with. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that they gave me a job. But, when I was 26 years old, I was working with my buddy's dad in HVAC or 420 mechanical. And I was stealing knowledge on like how he runs his business and how he operated. But, at 26 years old, we were on a demo job making prevailing wage at $48 an hour. It was like the best pay ever. And I'm like, I want to stay here and do this for the rest of my life because it was great money at the time. But
Yeah.
I saw the outcome. He wanted me to stay too. He's like, I'll offer you a full-time job, $40-some an hour. I was 26 years old. I thought that was
he recognized your work ethic. So
yeah,
sure,
correct.
he didn't
But
wanna lose
I was
you.
like, you know what? No, I want to do my own thing,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll only make 35 for the next year, but I know I'll make more than that at some point.
That was
So
a good decision.
it was a great decision. Well, I think we're almost out of time, man. Thank you so much for coming
thanks for
in.
having me. This was
you
great.
did.
I really appreciate it.
Everything
Thank
you're
you.
doing for us is phenomenal.
Awesome.
And look forward to the future. And
Thanks,
and
Jim.
having you help
Appreciate
us
you having
grow,
me on.
man.
Thank
Yeah.
you.